Okay. How many hours?
2 hours just.
Okay, okay. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar
So
Meher Baba ki jai.
yeah, so maybe I'll start the seven realities and or you can read anything.
I can read. Okay.
Please, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. The seven realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. The only real existence is that of the one and only God who is the self in every finite self. The only real love is the love for this infinite God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, and even life itself are sacrificed. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so called bad, in saint and in so called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, to try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, deed, or even those who lead, not even those who harm you. The only real control is the discipline of the senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is designed with perfect calm to the will of God. Tar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. So let's actually, like you said, we should start with Trello. Maybe that is better. So, like I said yesterday, we did chapter 4, and we covered pages 120 to 143, which is part 3 and part 4. Part 3 is Bangalore, part 4 is Ranchi. We are in the midst of part 4 of Ranchi, the Ranchi Mast Ashram. So let's start from there. Maybe I'll read for a bit and then you will keep rotating.
Okay.
Second. Okay, this is where we stopped. I think it's page 143 on the book. And we stopped after talking about Dondi Bua, right? Now we'll talk about Kabir. I'll start Avatar Mer Baba ki jai. If Dondi Bua, apart from his occasional outbursts of temper, was timid and apologetic, Kabir was his antithesis. Kabir was the sort of man one could never forget. He had the loudest and most raucous laugh one had ever heard. 20 or 30 times a day, his cacophonous cachinnation would echo through the woods and must one would have thought have scared the birds and beasts for half a mile around. He had originally been in Pandharpur and Masa had brought him to Baba in Mehrabad for one day in August 1940. In 1947, he was brought to Mahabaleshwar from Kurduvadi, not far from Pandharpur. When he first set foot in the ashram, he inspired one with some misgivings, for he had a very swarthy skin, was almost naked, and his head was covered with a tousled thatch of thick black hair. In addition, he kept opening his large mouth, showing 2 rows of ugly yellow teeth, throwing back his head and uttering this terrible laugh. He used to live in the cremation ground in Pandharpur and was said to eat the incinerated remains of corpses there. So the reader will understand that one could not look at him without a feeling that his outlook on life, to say the least, must differ from one's own. A shave, a bath, and a kafni made him look more conventional, but his laugh remained unchanged. Day after day, however, when one studied his expression at the time of laughing, one came to understand Baba's statement that his laugh was the result of some genuine inner happiness that boiled over like this. In spite of his forbidding appearance and raucous laugh, there was a sense of some inner luminosity to which his outer shell did the poorest justice. At meals, he would crouch over his plate, making signs on the ground or in the air with one hand for a few minutes, and then plunging his hand into the food, he would clutch a mammoth handful and stuff it into his mouth. He would swallow this bolus after but one or two movements of his jaws and then roar with laughter. Kabir was a source of amazement to all, for never had one seen quite so strange an intermingling of an inner brilliance with so repellent and bestial a shell. He remained about 10 days at the ashram and was then sent back to Kuruduvadi. We will check 2 words. Cachinations. I think we did it yesterday as well, but either way, we will see it now. And bolus. I don't know, bolus.
Encashing, is it?
No, I think raucous. I think this was raucous. We checked it. Laugh loudly or immoderately. Yeah, raucous laughter. And one more was bolus. Bolus. A rounded mass, large pill, soft mass of chewed food. I think this one is the description because it's while eating, he's saying that, right? He would swallow this bolus. So it's like a morsel or
Yes.
not morsel, chewed inside. Yeah, but already chewed inside the mouth. Yeah. Wow. I think Donkins is continuing his uh, journey with a lot of English training for us. Okay, let's continue. The third must of interest was Jumma, a Madar Zad type with some characteristics of a Jamali. As a Madar Zad who had been a must from birth, he was to the average man, therefore, indistinguishable from a madman. So this is a rare must because he's been in a must state from birth. If you understand that, it's, I mean, if you think about it, it's very difficult for us to relate to somebody as being spiritually advanced when you're a kid, right? And especially with odd behavior. So it's more likely you're considered as mad. He, and I continue, was still a young man, perhaps 25 years old, with a pale face slightly pitted with the scars of an old smallpox, dazed but splendid eyes, and a small body of which he seemed to have the barest cognizance. He was content to sit all day in any part of the ashram, and when led by the hand, was docile and cooperative. The only restless trait was that of an interminably moving his forearms, hands, and fingers in grotesque, sinuous, and apparently purposeless ways. His arms, hands, and fingers were slim and long, and their joints so supple that their movements bore a resemblance to the writhings of a snake. Save for intermittent, softly uttered phrases that one could barely hear or understand, he was silent, utterly lost in his divine intoxication. One day, Eruch brought a certain Bhorwala Baba, an adept pilgrim from Bhor, to see Baba in Mahabaleshwar. He was a thin, elderly Muslim with an intelligent and kindly face. Before setting out for Mahabaleshwar, Eruch, in order not to divulge the name of Meher Baba, had told Bhorwala Baba that he was bringing him to meet his elder brother. Bhorwala Baba, however, at once rejoined that he was being taken not to Eruch's brother but to Meher Baba. He then added, Meher Baba has in him the whole universe. He is the master of everyone, and he is within every disciple. He is this world, that which is above it and below it. He is in me and in everyone. He is the saint of saints. He is Tajuddin Baba. In one glance, he sees the whole continent of India. As soon as he arrived at the ashram, Eruch told all these things to Baba, and Baba, because he had been recognized, decided not to meet Borwala Baba. He sent supper to him and gave instructions that after a night's rest and breakfast the following morning, he should be sent away. Such independent spiritual witnesses of Baba's greatness are met from time to time. They crop up in unexpected places, and because of their especial value and interest to devotees of Baba, I've collected them together in one short chapter elsewhere in this volume. Although Baba does not always avoid contact with such advanced souls who outwardly recognize him, he prefers, as a general rule, not to meet them, since in some way they are not accordant with the needs of his work. Chatti Baba and many others have also uttered striking encomiums of Baba's greatness, and the borderline between those who, though they recognize his status, are suitable for his work, and those who are not suitable is obscure to all except to Baba himself. Okay, so this is about the first place that we encountered, I think Bhor. Yeah, Bhor. Not on the map, but it's about 25 miles northeast of Mahabaleshwar as a crow flies. Okay, Shah Sahib faces the camera and seems a little puzzled. I think Shah Sahib is the next one. Mahabaleshwar Ashram, January 1947. Striking photo. Okay, so let's rotate the reading a little bit. Shah Sahib. Ashish, you want to
Okay.
read for some time?
Yeah,
Or
sure.
Aman?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shah Sahib, the last I shall describe here, was a must of no special merit, being of the eighth type, partly god mad and partly must. He was interesting because he seemed to feel the importance of Baba and was reluctant to leave. When the Mast ashram was disbanded at the end of January, Shah Sahib was therefore kept on, and at the end of May, he moved down to Satara with Baba and his group. He was perhaps 35 years old, tall, with a strong physique, oval face, regular features, and deep set, almond shaped eyes. His eyes held a desert expression, as if something inside his mind or in the outer world that he saw puzzled him. He would murmur to himself a great deal, but one remembered him particularly for strange, deep voiced laugh that he would utter every few minutes, for no obvious reason. His real name was Siddiqui, and although he was brought to Mahabaleshwar from Pachgani, only a few miles away, he seemed to have some originally either from the north of India or possibly from Africa. He walk in the extreme. He would pronounce one or two words clearly, and the rest of the sentence would be confused murmur, and no one understood. Once or twice, when asked where he was born, he murmured some words that sounds like Africa or Somaliland. And it is possible that he had somehow made his way to Bombay and thence to Pasgani. Maybe it's then to Pasgani and thence to Pasgani. In the early weeks of his stay at Mahabaleshwar, he spent a great part of his day either sitting in the corner of ashram smoking or lying buried under his blanket, from the depth of which he would murmur and laugh, and if enjoying some sort of inner life. Later, he came to take an interest in the ashram life, and after the other inmates and left inmates had left, began to look after himself with competence, surprising competence. He used to enjoy sitting in a comfortable chair in any part of the ashram. But as soon as a member of the mandali appeared, he would at once get up and leave the chair for their use. He liked to turn over the pages of books and newspapers, and one would see him sometimes with cigarette in his mouth, reclining at ease in an armchair, his nose buried in the British Journal of Surgery or the Times of India. Like Ali Shah, he was prodigious smoker, and his clothes and body had that rank smell of a man who smokes to excess. So, so much then for the Mahabaleshwar ashram. The account is far from complete, for it falls short in countless details of the daily round and gives an account only of the more interesting inmates. For brief descriptions of the other residents, the reader is referred to Mahabaleshwar in the supplement.
Okay, so we'll quickly see the supplement. We saw Mehrabad, and we didn't see Bangalore, Ranchi, and we'll start with Bangalore. Just 1 second. Wasim, Patala, Devar, Peswa. There's no Bangalore.
Maybe
Oh,
try to search.
oh, okay. I'm spelling it wrong. Yeah. So we read about Chadar Baba, Chatti Baba, Chinnaswamy in the book. So I mean, in the main part. So I will not refer to that. Gafur. Yeah, Gafur. I'm not sure if we read 1939. Peculiar rare mixture of Jalali and Mahbubi. He was a, yes, we did read about Gafur. He was a, yeah, he's a Mahbubi. Then other than that, there is Muhammad, of course, Phoolwala we read, Ramshish we read. Yeah, I think we read the supplement as well. Okay, now let's go to Ranchi. Yeah. So
Chatti Baba.
Ranchi, there's Chetty Baba, of course. Karim Baba, Muhammad, and Shariat Khan. So we've covered everybody there. Let's go to Mahabaleshwar. So it's on the other side.
South.
Is the Mahabaleshwar section.
Maybe it covers
Yeah,
under
yeah,
Satara.
yeah. Got it. So Abdullah is the first one. Yes, is the first one of Mahabaleshwar. He scratched most of the. What's that?
No, I was just trying to read it.
Yeah, go ahead, read.
Yeah,
Just read quickly.
Mahabaleshwar Abdullah of Mahad, God mad. He squats most of the day with his knees tucked under his chin, smoke biddies, and talk a queer language of his own, a nonsense language, much as children sometimes talk for fun. He is a young man. He stayed in the Mahabaleshwar for 3 or 4 weeks. Abdul Siddiqui Shah Sahib of Pajgani, he stayed in the Mahabaleshwar from December 1946 until 25th May 1947. Note: Baba and his group stayed in Mahabaleshwar in February and March 1943 and again from 4th December 1946 to 15th May 1947. From 20 December 1946 until 25th January 1947, there was a triple ashram there on the small scale for 3 different types. One, musts and advanced souls. Second, God mad. Third, destitute and infirm. The names of the inmates of ashram are given here in alphabetical order, irrespective of whether each man was must, godman, or destitute.
Okay, so there's yeah, they are all
Uh,
set. Okay, go ahead.
yeah. Abdul Mahabaleshwar, Abdul Siddiqui, Shah Sahib. When he went to Satara with Baba and party, for the description of this moderate must see the account of Mahabaleshwar Ashram in chapter 4. Okay, Ali Shah of Ahmednagar brought to Mahabaleshwar for about 3 days, brought to Mahabaleshwar for about 10 days in 1947. Sorry, in the first line, brought to Mahabaleshwar for about 3 days, 1946 December. Brought to Mahabaleshwar for about 10 days, 1947 January. Brought to Mahabaleshwar, stayed till the 22nd, 1947 February 19. Brought to Mahabaleshwar for 2 days, 1947 March 23. For the description of this must, one of the special must whom Baba has often had with him for work, see chapter 2. From the notes above, it will be seen that he was called 4 times to Mahabaleshwar for work with Baba, and on new,
Penultimate.
ultimate occasion in February. He was with Baba during the final 4 days of period of 12 days seclusion. Bashir of Aurangabad, a poor old man with Parkinsonism,
Parkinson's.
Parkino, Parkinsonism, restless and rather difficult to manage. He was in Mahabaleshwar for few days, 1946 December. Bhorwala Baba.
You can leave Borwala and Dondi Bua because we read it. Then
Yeah,
just a
just
master.
just a master of Pune, brought to the ashram for the few days. A very aged poor man, a scholar, a schoolmaster, and a palmist. He was an eccentric old man in a very frail state of health. He later passed away in Pune, 1946 January. Jumma of Baramati stayed in the ashram for 10 days. That must is a Madarzat having Madarzat having a traits of a Jamali. He was brought to Mahabaleshwar from Baramati by Sadashiv Patil, one of Baba's earliest disciple. Jumma was originally contacted by Baba in Jalgaon in 1943, and since then he must have moved to Baramati. For a description of him, see the account of the Mahabaleshwar Ashram in chapter 4, 1947 January.
Okay, so we missed this. I think we read it, but I didn't remember. Okay, Kabir we read. You can go to Mani Ram.
Pahalwan, Maniram, yeah, Maniram of Ahmednagar, an old man poor, neglected by his relatives, with a gentle and fine nature. He stayed in the Mahabaleshwar Ashram for 3 weeks, 1947 January. Pahalwan of Ahmednagar, the ashram pet. See the account of the Mahabaleshwar Ashram in chapter 4 for a description of the amusing fellow. He was in the ashram for 3 weeks, 1947 January. Pir Shah of Satara, an obstreperous lunatic sent away after a few days because of he was unmanageable. He was in ashram for 2 or 3 days, 1947 January. Ramachandar Sathe, Ramachandar Sathe of Y.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll see
Yeah,
the meaning later. Yeah.
Ramachandar Sathe of Y, a madman who is not as mad as he pretends. He has a habit of staring at the reflection of the sun in a small mirror, saying that this kills the worms in his eyes. He was interstitial keratitis. He was in the ashram for 3 or 4 weeks. 1946 December. Razak of Pajgani. This man is more mad than God-man. He behaves in the infantile way, waits his bedding night for day through sheer laziness and lies smoking or dozing most of the day. He was there for 3 or 4 weeks. 1946 December. Sharavati, Sharavati, Sharavati of Lonavala, an eccentric old man with various delusions, kept a few days in Mahabaleshwar. After he left, he wrote an amusing letter to Baba saying that he was going to visit his spiritual master, who is the Lord of universe and of the sun and moon as well. And he asked Baba to send him 2000 rupees.
Wow.
1947 January. Sonar, a derelict old man who stayed in the ashram for 3 weeks. He is from Ahmednagar, 1946 December. Vasudev Swami of
We read
Ale.
this. We
Yeah,
read this
yeah.
yesterday. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think the
Mahabaleshwar,
last one is poor. Yeah.
poor. Yeah. So, name not known of
A
Pune,
lot of people. Yeah. Go ahead.
a seeker, an old man of commanding presence
No, no,
with
I
fair
think, okay, okay. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
presence with a fair complexion. For this description, see the account of the Mahabaleshwar Ashram in chapter 4, 1947 January. Poor of Mahabaleshwar and surrounding villages, about 28 poor people were called to the ashram and given 10 rupees each by Baba's own hand. 1947 January 29. Mahad Abdullah,
No, no, no. That's not Mahabharata. That's
hmm?
Mahad. Next place.
Mahad, yeah.
That's it.
Mahad
Yeah.
Abdullah, taken to the Mahabaleshwar
No, no, no.
ashram.
That we don't have to read. So we have to read only up to Mahabaleshwar, right?
Yeah, up to Mahabaleshwar. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
Mahad actually. Yes.
Correct, Mahad. Next place. So, uh, well, we can come back and continue.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one
Above
more.
all,
Yeah, one more para before the chapter. Yeah, please.
above all, this account has one irremediable defect. This it shows nothing of the invisible spiritual interplay between the consciousness of the master and the minds and souls of the inmates. For that, we are circumscribed by Baba's own statement that his relationship with the must is a matter between him and them. So, like an iceberg, we see only the eighth that stands above the surface of the ocean, and the submerged seventh, eighth, the real mass of the thing, is hidden from our eyes.
Beautiful summary.
Yeah.
So next is Satara. Before that, I think the two things that sound strange and mysterious to me is one, Baba turning down the guy who recognizes him, right? Because obviously he recognized him without meeting him, and just when he was told elder brother, he said, "No, I know you're taking me to Mer Baba," but Baba didn't meet him. The second is the funny guy who asked for 2000 rupees to see Baba's master. So these were two interesting things that are in memory. So we can again rotate reading. Mamaji, you want to read for some time?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You had a word for
Yes, thank
kind of
you.
medicine.
Thank you. The word was a type of extreme madness. Unruly or aggressive noisiness. Yeah. So there was a very obstreperously mad person who was troubling them, and then they gave up and sent him back. That was
Yes.
obstreperous. Well, well, well. Donkins.
Mm.
Okay. So let's start with Satara.
Satara, June and July 1947. The account of this must ashram will be brief, not because it was Chacha, and with Ali Shah, whose stories have been told elsewhere in this book. On 25th May 1947, Baba and his party left Mahabaleshwar for Satara. Satara is an old city famous for its connection with Shivaji, the great founder of Maratha Empire, and the thorn in the side of Aurangzeb, the last of the great Mughal emperors of Delhi. The development of Satara has been stunted, perhaps because it lies 10 miles from the nearest railway station. But for all that, it has something of the simple comeliness of a country town. Immediately behind the town rise the steep 1,000-foot grassy slopes of Ajinkya-tara, crowned by a sheer 50-foot wall of black Deccan trap. And upon this natural fortress rise the walls of great fortress whose stones are cut from the same black rock. Its name Ajinkya-tara means unconquerable star, and the Mughals in their days used to call it Azmat Ara, the adornment of greatness. Three or four houses were taken for Baba's various groups in a part of Satara that had been a military camp several years before, where most of the houses are spacious with pleasant gardens but have the tawdry appearance of houses seldom lived in. One of these houses, though old, was whitewashed and painted, and with its high, airy rooms and bare stone floors, it became an agreeable home for the Masts who were brought to Satara for Baba's work. Baba sent instructions to several disciples to bring Masts from various parts of India, even from Kashmir and Sindh. But as it is the case of Mahabaleshwar, even the most arduous laborers somehow bore little fruit. Within the first few days of Ali Shah was sent for, and Baba at once began his silent daily work with this pleasant old Jamali Mast from Ahmednagar.
Map reference is for, we'll just quickly see it. Satara is on the, south of Pune. Yeah, where is Satara? There it is. Mast Ashram between June and July 1947. And Ajinkya Tara we came across earlier in the Mast Ashram. I mean, in this book itself, where we saw the photographs even of that place, right? So it's basically a fortress. So it's behind Satara.
This Mast Ashram. Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
This Mast Ashram perhaps stands head high above others because Baidul.
Wait. Okay. One second.
Okay.
Why is this not going away? Yeah.
Head above others because Baidul, either by some stroke of fortune or by Baba's inner help, succeeded in bringing Chacha of Ajmer, the great seventh plane Mazoob, to Satara. He stayed in the ashram for about 5 weeks, and it seemed as if Baba's whole attitude to his mandli and to the world at large was dependent upon his work with Chacha. There was no doubt that when Chacha was responsive and easy, Baba was supremely happy. And indeed, there is nothing that makes Baba so really happy as first-rate Mast in a first-rate mood. A perfect master is one who is not only spiritually perfect, but one also who so loves mankind that he becomes by his own will perfectly a man and enjoys and suffers as a man does. When Baba is working with a good must, he becomes so engrossed that for the time being he utterly forgets his meals, his sleep, his clothes, his mandli, and it seems the whole wide world. The mandli, though they are glad to share these moments of manifest happiness, are often amazed at the restless energy with which he pursues his work. At such times, Baba presses the throttle hard down to the floorboard without regard for the damage that he might do to the intricate machinery of his physical frame. Such then was Baba's way of life when Chacha was in Satara, and he told Baidul that for this work Chacha was as good as 100 ordinary musts. What the work was that Baba did during those strangely silent hours when those coming in and out of the ashram would lift themselves forward on to their toes and talk in hushed voices, I do not know, for he would not tell us the reason for those long sessions behind closed doors. He must nevertheless have done some labor that called for immense and protracted concentration, for he would emerge from almost every meeting pale and apparently exhausted, his clothes often drenched in perspiration out of all proportion to the heat of the day. Apart from Chacha and Ali Shah, the only other musts brought to Satara ashram were two from Karachi. These were moderate musts who, in comparison with the stature of Chacha and Ali Shah, were of no special significance. Baba kept them for 2 days, bathing, clothing, feeding, and contacting them, and then sent them back to Karachi. They were of the eighth type, half must and half god mad, and it seemed as if Baba preferred to concentrate his forces on Chacha and Ali Shah rather than these two from Karachi. They were known as Payaji and Babaji and are described in the supplement under Satara.
Chacha, yeah. The famous photograph, yeah.
Yeah. Baba with Chacha in the Satara ashram. Note the way Chacha sits. This posture is very typical of him. On 10th July, Baba pronounced his work with Chacha to be complete and he was sent back to Ajmer. Ali Shah began also to be unwell in various small ways so that Baba found his work with him difficult. Towards the end of July, therefore, Ali Shah was sent back to Ahmednagar, and with his departure, the Satara Mast Ashram came to an end.
Okay, before that, we'll just quickly see what's there in Satara, other than Ali Shah and Chacha. Yeah. So Ali Shah we saw, and this is the two musts from Karachi. Just the name Baba of Karachi brought to the Satara ashram for 2 days by Minu Kharas. He's a middle-aged man, a moderate must. This happened in 1947, 13th of June. Whose origin and real name are not known. He asks for nothing and speaks to no one. He sits in one posture for hours at a stretch in the manner of a catatonic and is well known to the workmen and coolies at Karachi station. He is a great bidi smoker, country cigarette. Then Chacha, of course, we learned. Malang Maharaj. Malang Maharaj is a good mast from Vanegaon brought to Baba in Satara during the period of his 5 days seclusion there. He was very active and restless, and as soon as he was brought into the house, he made himself at home on a sofa, smiling winsomely at everyone. Baba washed the mast's hands and gave him food, and Malang Maharaj then called for some wood ash and gave a pinch of it to Baba. Later, Malang Maharaj asked to have a bath, and Baba bathed him and then sat with him for 1 hour. After this contact, Baba told Baidul that his work with Malang Maharaj was finished and he was taken back to his village of Vanegaon, where he is much revered. 1947, April 23rd. Payaji, a moderate mast of Karachi, brought to Satara Mast Ashram for 2 days by Minu Kharas. Payaji is naked save for a loin cloth, has been well known in Karachi for the last 30 years. And although he still looks to be in early middle age, he must in fact be early 60 years, nearly 60 years old. He prattles a great deal and from time to time claps his hands together loudly with an expression of great enjoyment. Another of his favorite habits is to put his fingers in one or both ears and utter sounds as if he were pretending to transmit or receive telegraph messages. He is agonizingly restless and will repeat one question over and over again. He loves to smoke cigarettes and go for rides in cars and carriages. Paya Ji was kept for 2 days in the Satara Mast Ashram, fed and contacted by Baba and sent back to Karachi with Minu Kharas on the evening of 14th July 1947, 13th of June. Two more in Satara. Pir Shah, a lunatic sent to the Mahabaleshwar ashram for a few days. He was uncooperative, abusive, and difficult there, and so was sent back. Shah Sahib Abdul Siddiq, we saw it also in Mahabaleshwar, of Panchagani, the original inmate of the Mahabaleshwar ashram, accompanied Baba and his group to Satara and stayed in Satara with the Mandali. For his description, see Mahabaleshwar. This was in 1947, May 25. Okay, so let's get back to chapter 5. We have Sunil. Sunil, you want to read for some time? Are you in a position to do that? Or Sanjay ji? Okay, Mama, why don't you continue?
Yeah. I'll read. I
Okay,
just
thank you.
took some time to unmute myself. Yeah.
No problem, please.
Okay. Chapter 5. Those who bear witness. The contents of this chapter have been distilled from the main bulk of this book and from its supplement because I believe that these strange testimonies hold a special value for Baba's devotees and disciples. In reading these brief paragraphs, one should remember that when an tour in search of musts, Baba is almost always incognito, and that when a must bears witness to Baba's spiritual greatness, he often does so without having an external means of knowing who Baba is. It is true that some of the remarks quoted come from the mouths of men who outwardly knew who Baba was, great saints like Chatti Baba, for instance. But these men, like those who did not have any external means of recognition, have reputations as musts or saints quite independent of their contact or relationship with Baba, and this, I believe, adds greatly to the value of what they say. Yeah.
Okay, before that, maybe we just quickly see that those two words that we wanted to refer. One word,
Yeah.
catatonic. Relating to or catatonia, characterized by a marked lack of movement, activity, or expression. So he's somebody who does not move. Interesting. And I wanted to again show Ajinkya Tara is a black, naturally formed fortress like, naturally formed plus, there it is. So this is the constructed part, and this is the naturally formed part, and this is close to Satara. Behind Satara is what they say. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, let's
Cat
get back.
Catatonic is also used in like catatonic stand or commitment or that kind of
Oh, is it? Okay.
sense. Yeah, yeah, I think so. I've
Okay.
I've read this word. Yeah,
Okay. Now we'll read the accounts of each of the people. Yeah.
yeah. Aghori Baba, a sixth plane must of Shimla, August 1946. He told Kaka, pointing to Baba, "You will see what will come to pass, and one day you will know who he, Baba, really is." Azim Khan Baba, a high must of Mutra, this is Mathura actually, 14th October 1946. When Baba contacted him, Azim Khan Baba, said, "You are Allah. You have brought forth the creation, and one in 1,000 years you come down to see the play of what you have created." Bhorwala Baba, an adept pilgrim of Bhor, January 1946. Bhor is in Maharashtra, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Close to Mahabaleshwar.
yeah. He said of Baba, "Meher Baba has in him the whole universe, and he is within every disciple. He is this world, that which is above it and below it. He is in me and in everyone. He is the saint of saints. He is Tajuddin Baba. In one glance, he sees the whole continent of India."
So this is the bust that Eruch brought to Mahabaleshwar, and Eruch didn't tell him that he is taking him to Meher Baba, and when he just said, "Elder, I'm taking you to your elder brother," and then Borwala Baba
Yeah.
says this in response. The same lines were there in that book. Yeah. Oh, Brahmananda ji. Okay.
Brahmananda ji, he touched Baba's feet and said, "Behold, how devoted love draws the Lord Krishna to me. The perfect master is here." He then put his hand under his pillow, pulled out a new and clean copy of Purdam's The Perfect Master, and opened the book at a page with Baba's picture there. Yeah, this was also in Mathura. An adept pilgrim of Mathura, 14th October 1946. This story I have read, yeah. Bandal Shah, a sixth plane must of Pune, 1943. One of Baba's men bought this great must to his house in Pune with a view to taking him to Baba, who was then in Mahabaleshwar. By a coincidence, Bandal Shah came across a photo of Baba between the leaves of an exercise book that had been handed to him in response to a request for some paper. This photo had no subscription or title to show whose picture it was.
Superscription.
Yeah,
Superscription.
superscription or title. On the back of this photo, Bandal Shah then wrote out a long string of numbers connected with plus and minus signs, ending up with 7 equal to God. He then pointed to this word God, and then reversing the paper, pointed to the figure of Baba and said, "God is equal to Meher Baba."
Hmm.
Wow. Chatti Baba, the sixth plane must of Negapatnam and one of Baba's 5 favorites. In June 1940, he said one day while pouring earth on his head, "There will be much trouble and privation, and many will die of starvation, but Baba will assuage the suffering of the world." In March 1941, in Quetta, he said, "There will be so great a calamity in the world that no one can imagine it. Even brother will kill brother, and there will be great tribulations. Then all the world will think of my big brother, Baba, and that time Baba will draw aside the wheel and all will pay obeisance to him. In June or July 1941 in Ajmer, he told Krishna, who was in a bad mood at the time, "You want to leave, don't you? But what's the good of it? All the world is in Baba's power. So where you will go to serve him now? He is the ocean, because one day when lots of people throng to see him, you may never get an opportunity of meeting him. So take your chance now." Chotu Mia, a good must of Sangamner, 1st June 1943. He was brought to Mirabad by Baidul. When Baidul met him in Sangamner, Chotu Mia said to him, "Your prophet is very great. He is greater than Christ and Muhammad, and all the world will believe in him." Tada Mia, a must of Amravati, April 1939. Chhagan tried to bring this must to Baba in Jabalpur. He refused to come and said, "He is the emperor. How can I come?" Kokhle Baba, a six-plane must of Smailpur, 9th October 1941. When Baba visited him for the last time, Gokhale Baba looked lovingly at Baba and said, "God has come." Gulab Baba, a six-plane must of Illichpur, March 1939. When Baba entered the room, Gulab Baba told Kaka, pointing to Baba, "He, Baba, is God himself, and you have tricked me." A few moments later, when Baba asked Gulab Baba to sit beside him, he protested, "I am not fit to sit beside him." Gurdat Singh, an advanced pilgrim of Kalyan, 29 July 1929. Baba stopped the car on the way to Kashmir near his village of Kulyan. Oh, that's in Kashmir. Okay. This Sikh was standing by the roadside and told Ramju, pointing to Baba, "He is a master. He is a real master, and his grace has been bestowed upon me." Finally, he said, "May I be sacrificed in the dust under his feet." Keshavanandji Maharaj, an adept pilgrim of Rishikesh, April 1934. Leader, one of Baba's disciples, showed a photograph of Baba to the Muzawar of Keshavanandji, who then gave it to his Guru. Keshavanandji, after April 1934, looking at the picture of Baba, called Pleader and told him that he normally never let anyone come near him. But seeing this photo and knowing the divinity of Meher Baba, he had to call Pleader near, because Baba was the master of the universe and bore the burden of the whole creation upon his shoulders. Khala Masi, a high Mastani of Seoni, March 1939. She was brought to Jabalpur by Chhagan and told Baba, "You are the ocean. Give me a few drops from it to drink." Mai Bap, a high must of Aurangabad, May 1939. He was brought to Baba, who bathed and clothed him, and then sat with him alone in a room. During the contact, Mai Bap shouted out once or twice, "I am on fire, I am aflame." On leaving, Kaka asked him where he had taken his meal, and he replied, "Today I came to God's court and was given food." Mai Sahib, a very good Mastani of Sukur, 17th June 1924, so old it is. He asked Ramju who his peer, spiritual master was. He said, he told her, "Meher Baba," and she replied, Badshah, Shahenshah. Yeah, go up a bit. Maulana Shamsuddin Ulema, an adept pilgrim of Muradabad, February 1942. This aged saint of Muradabad was contacted at night and was roused from sleep to see Baba. When he gazed at Baba, he said, "In the darkness of night, I see the light of God." Mia Sahib, a very advanced mast of Ajanta, November 1944. When Baba came, Mia Sahib embraced him and weeping aloud, cried out, I think R is missing, cried out, "Khud be khud, azad budhi, khud giraftar amadi." This is a Persian couplet which translated freely means you became free and then allowed yourself to be bound. Oh, beautiful. This is a reference to Baba who, having become one with God, came back to the world of his own free will for the sake of mankind. He indicated a letter to Baba in which
Next person. It's Mirak Shah now.
oh sorry. I actually I'm doing on mobile. So Mirak Shah, an advanced pilgrim of Shalimar village near Srinagar, Kashmir, August 1944. He indited a letter to Baba in which he wrote that he, Baba, was God and that he wanted to come and live with him. Muhammad, one of Baba's five favorites. He always called Baba Dada. He has said many things about Baba, of which the most striking are: Dada is God, Dada is master, everything depends on Dada's will. Because Dada is there, the world is there. Dada is the master of mercy. Muhammad Ali Mast, a good must of Varda, 19 July 1944. Baidul, who came to see him first, had a stick with him that Baba had given him. The Mast said to him, "The man who gave you that stick is very great, so look after the stick and hit no one with it." Mung Saji Maharaj, an adept pilgrim of Damangaon, he told Baba Das, one of Baba's disciples, that Baba was the emperor. Nadir Ali Shah, spiritual chargeman of Quetta, March 1941. He refused to come for Baba's contact, saying, "My boat will be drowned in that ocean." Nanga Baba, a very high mast between the 6th and 7th of Jassigran, September 1943. He pointed to Baba and said, "He is my elder brother. He has adjusts and protects the whole world." Pathan Mast, a good mast of Bombay 1942. He was seen by Kaka in Bombay with a view to taking him to Baba in Lonavala. Kaka invited him to come and he replied, "What should I come for? Since your soul and mine are with him, Baba." He then gave Kaka an orange and added, "The key to the whole world is in his, Baba's, hand, and all the countries, Russia, Germany, and so forth, do as he directs." Pir Fazal Shah.
I think this quote almost has a direct reference to World War, I
Yeah.
think.
Looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pir Fazal Shah, an adept pilgrim of Kota, 12th October 1946. He told Baba, "No one until you came has touched my heart with the arrow of divine love. You have the power to destroy the whole world and flood the whole world. No one fully knows the limits of your greatness. You are the spiritual authority of the time. And if I were to die, I would take another body to be close to you. Sakhi Baba, a good must of Bahraich, 1942. When Baba appeared, Sakhi Baba put dancing bells on his ankles and danced, sang and cried out, God has come to give his darshan. Shubhan Mattu, a good must of Srinagar, Kashmir, 20th August 1944. He was brought to the house, and when he saw Baba, he rolled on the ground and cried out, He is God. A must of the third plane at Brindavan, near Mathura, 28th January 1939. When Baba and group of lady disciples arrived at famous Vrindavan temple, which is closely associated with the legend of Krishna's life, his fellow this fellow began dancing and playing his flute and shouted, Look, the Lord Krishna and his gopis have come. Baba said of him, He is one of my real lovers. A must of Ajmer, February 1939. When Baba appeared in the streets of Ajmer one day to contact masts, this man shouted out, Oh, look, Shankar has come. Take God's darshan, all of you. A very high must of Jamnagar, Nawanagar, January 1941. Baba contacted him twice, and the second contact was at night in the countryside beyond the town. During this second contact, the must wept loudly and then cried out, I have met God in the wild. An intimate pilgrim of Panchgani, initiate pilgrim of Panchgani, 26th October 1941. He met Baba on the road and said, You are the God Vishnu's avatar. Pray, grant me the boon of Master's word for me to remember and repeat. A few minutes later, he said, My work is done, and then added, Here no one knows you. I have seen you and recognized you as the true avatar of Vishnu. Pray you remember me also. Baba told him through one of the Mandali who was with him, I know all. That is why I come to you here now. The man then folded his hands and bowing said, My life's desire is fulfilled. Hail, God Vishnu.
So he's a initiate pilgrim. So he's not even on the plains or anything. So he's been able to recognize Baba. So this is interesting.
Yeah. A must of the fifth plane of the place of seclusion. May 1946. He was brought to Baba's house and then he reached the gate. He said, We have come to the garden of paradise. Gulistan. Baba came out of the house and then he gazed at Baba's face, laughed with tears of joy in his eyes, and embraced Baba. Pointing to Baba, he then said to those standing by, Look at this man's face and forehead. They shine as if sun were there. Can't you recognize who he is?
That's
Yeah, I think here ends the chapter. Yeah.
chapter 5. But amazing to see I mean, there's a good reference in general also because it's got all the musts who recognized and talked about Baba in glowing terms, and it's a nice collection. I should say.
There was a reference of Mungsaji Maharaj there, right? Mungsaji Maharaj.
Yeah.
So I heard about that the Maharaj name from the Yavatmal. Yavatmal is part of Vidarbha actually. Hopefully that is the same Mungsaji Maharaj, and he's very famous again. But hopefully again the same way which I spoke later about the Gulab Baba. But Mungsaji Maharaj's name is very
Mung.
famous in Vidarbha.
This one, Mungsaji.
Yes.
Okay.
Damangaon.
Mungsaji.
Damangaon is near
Damangaon.
that area?
Yeah, Damangaon is part of Vidarbha, near to Yavatmal.
Okay,
Lilavati.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But he is saying he told Babas that Baba was the emperor. Yeah. Okay. But he didn't meet to right. He didn't go, I think.
Yeah, he didn't meet. Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't.
we don't know.
Why they were refusing to meet Baba?
We don't know.
Yeah, I think some of them, after meeting Baba, even dropped what is their work was still pending, what they wanted to do, probably, whatever. Or they were being used for some purpose. Like Upasni Maharaj didn't meet Baba for very long, and after he met, immediately after that, he dropped his body. 1946, I suppose.
And
There
maybe
was a
some of the
meeting in Sakuri, yeah.
some of them might be become famous. That's why they don't want. They just they used to with that famous things and they don't want to go to Baba. Probably we don't know.
We
They
don't
just
know.
stuck.
Don't know.
We don't know.
Correct. I don't know who this Brahmananda is from Mathura. Keshavananda, we will just see. Keshavananda, right? That was the name of in Rishikesh. Keshavananda ji. Keshavan.
I think there was an ashram in Rishikesh where Baba had gone. No? That's still there. People
Is
post
that the
pictures
Divine
of
Life
that place.
Society?
No.
Because I
Some
remember the name.
such name only of some saint where Baba
Okay.
had gone.
Okay.
Rishikesh, there is a place where Baba had gone, and I have seen people visiting that place and posting on the groups.
Okay.
So that could be this place.
Okay.
In Lord Meher, we should find that reference. Rishikesh reference, Baba's visit to Rishikesh.
Okay, so let's get back to chapter 6. Sunil, are you in a position to read now? You never unmuted the last time. Maybe you're busy.
Yes, I can read.
Perfect, great. So let's start with chapter 6, the tours.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Chapter 6, the tours.
After the tour, Sunil is reading.
Sunil's reading about the tours.
Okay. India is a vast and complex land, and as I hope to show in the following pages, the work that Meher Baba has done on his various special tours has been a vast and complex labor. One simply cannot, therefore, give a brief and lucid narrative of everything that he has done on these great journeys, but must confine oneself to a general picture in which one hopes the reader's sympathy and interest will not be swamped by a surfeit of factual details. This chapter, therefore, has very definite limitations. In general, the first few pages endeavor to set out the main things that Baba does on a tour, and the final pages to give some idea of the immense labor and formidable hardships that these journeys have meant to Baba and those who travel with him. Finally, I hope to have made it clear that the detailed record of Baba's tours is contained in 3 places in this volume: the small maps and the lists of the tours at the close of this chapter, the supplement, and the large map at the back of the book. Devotees of Meher Baba know that since he returned from France in November 1937, he has been moving over the length and breadth of India, now India and Pakistan, staying a few months here and there with various groups of disciples, and the sequence of these places of sojourn from August 39 till August 1947 is shown on the small map of India in the right lower corner of the large map at the end of this volume. In the preceding chapters, it has been shown that if we exclude a few contacts in the early years, Meher Baba's work with Masts as a distinct class may be counted as beginning with Muhammad and four other genuine Masts of Mad Ashram at Rauri, and the first Mast Ashram was at Ajmer in February 1939. So if we say that his work with Mast became conspicuous firstly with Muhammad and then particularly with the Ajmer Ashram, we find that from these beginnings until the close of 1940, Baba arranged to have Masts constantly close to him by making ashrams for them wherever he happened to be, and Masts were brought to these ashrams by various disciples for his contact. Of the seven Mast ashrams described in chapter 4, five were in the 2 years 1939 and 1940. And we then jump to December 1946 to the Mahabaleshwar ashram, a gap of 6 years when there were no Mast ashrams at all, or at least none worth the name. Now, these 6 years, 1941 to 1946 inclusive, are the years of great Mast tours when Baba went out to almost every corner of India and contacted advanced souls of every kind. Masts were now seldom brought to him. He went out himself to contact them, and it is the work of these 6 years that is discussed in this chapter. Thus, although there were a few Mast tours in 1939 and 1940, the beginning of tours on the grand scale dates from January 1941, when Baba's base camp was in Jaipur, and a glance from the sketch maps with their statistics at the close of this chapter will make this clear. From 1941 until the end of 1946, this great work has continued, and since the closing of Satara Mast Ashram, it still continues on a smaller scale in 1947.
1 minute, we'll see that what he's talking about in the big map.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the big map, and inset in that is the tours that he's talking about here, right? So these are all the places that Baba visited, right? From Srinagar, Quetta and Lahore in Pakistan, right to all the places that are mentioned here with the dates.
Mm-hmm.
So 1941 to 1946, but then it starts from 1940 itself, is the tours. So bulk of the tours, I mean, the early days, he also had the ashram. So that's the idea. The rest of it was more travels to reach these musts, right? Oh, so it includes India, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. And it's hectic travel, as you can see. There's continuous travel over and over again. So let's go back. On these tours, yeah.
On these tours, although we have generally called them Mast tours, Baba actually contacted four classes of people. Firstly, Masts of all types. Secondly, those with Hawa, seekers, and initiate advanced and adept pilgrims, that is, Salik-like pilgrims of all grades. Thirdly, sadhus and fakirs. And fourthly, the poor. The term must tour is, I believe, a justifiable misnomer because although Baba admittedly works with the four classes of people, the predominant feature of almost every tour has been the contact of God-intoxicated souls. If therefore the principal reason of these prodigious journeys all over India has been to contact Masts, and the subordinate reason to contact Salik-like pilgrims, his work with so many thousands of sadhus and poor needs some additional explanation. One can only say, however, that the contact of sadhus and the poor is not a regular feature of his work, but crops up from time to time and seems, when it occurs, to bear a definite relationship to his work with the Masts. Thus, Baba sometimes starts or ends a must tour by contacting a number of poor, and his contacts with sadhus have been a general rule, as a general rule, on a large scale but in infrequent intervals. Thus, at Allahabad, Kumbh Mela, at the close of December 1941, Baba contacted over 7,000 sadhus in 2 short days, and from time to time he has visited the great Hindu pilgrims centers of Haridwar and Rishikesh and contacted sadhus in large numbers. Now, what does Baba do when he contacts these different types of souls? Or, in other words, what do you mean by the word contact that has been repeated so many times in this volume? In attempting to answer this question, one is at an immediate disadvantage for two reasons. The first, that one will perhaps never fathom the true meaning of the spiritual work that Baba does at the time of contact. And the second, that Baba rarely allows anyone to witness all the external features of his contact. As far as the inner significance is concerned, we must rest satisfied with the statement that he loves us and they love him, and that he helps us and they need help and they help him. So much then for the inner side, which is, of course, the thing that really matters. And now, what of the outer? Externally, Baba usually does three things when he contacts a mast or a salik like pilgrim on a tour. He feeds them, he gives them a metal coin, and he sits with them in a secluded place where no one sees this silent conference. Since observing silence, Baba has not touched money except when he gives it to masts, salik like pilgrims, sadhus, and the poor. This receiving of money is fundamentally not charity, but a medium of contact, and Baba, particularly with the masts, uses metal coins. He has explained that the metal, in some specific way, acts as a medium of contact. Those who go on mast tours with Baba are often painfully aware of this necessity for metal coins, for their arms and fingers ache from carrying heavy bag of coins of all denominations. Those are asterisks on top. I'm not
Yes.
sure what that
Yes.
is for. He may not always feed salik like pilgrims, but he gives them money and sits with them in seclusion. Okay. With sadhus and fakirs, the need for privacy is not always so apparent, and Baba simply touches their feet with his hands and then touches his own forehead with his own hands, and he may or may not give them money. As a general rule, this is done in open and is witnessed by any chance passerby, although Baba's disciples are almost always ordered not to look at him while his work is in progress. With the poor, the need for privacy seems to vary, for at the general birthday celebration at Nasik in 1937, Baba's external actions were observed by all who close to watch him. In later years, however, he has contacted vast number of poor during the course of his tours, and although a part of his work would be openly assisted by certain disciples, any gift to the poor would be handed to them personally by Baba in the strictest seclusion. Thus, he often washes the feet of poor people, perhaps 50 or 100, one after the other, and the Mandali will help him in this, just as they would help him in bathing a mast. He may also feed them, and the Mandali will also help him in this work, but when he gives them money or a specific gift, he does this quite out of sight. And at such a time, each man or a woman files into a room where Baba is seated alone, receives the gift, and comes out again. Now, all this work of contacting masts and others is no haphazard peregrination from place to place, but is a fruit of through planning and in view of Baba's silence He must, of course, always have 2 or more disciples with him. It is impossible to say how far ahead Baba plans the details of his activities, but as far as approaching the topic of a must tour goes, he usually mentions briefly a month or 2 in advance that he is planning to go out for so many weeks during such and such a month. These fixed hints then slowly develop shape and detail, and 2 or 3 weeks before the date fixed for the day of a tour, one or all of the triumvirate of must experts are called. Sorry, how do you pronounce it?
Triumvirate. 3 people together.
Triumvirate.
I think it
Okay,
is
of-
Baidul, Kaka, and Eruch.
I see. Of must experts are called to Baba if, of course, they are not already there.
Let's
These
check
3
this
must
word out.
experts.
Just one second.
Yeah.
We'll just check this
Sure.
peregrination. To travel, especially on foot, travel or walk. Okay, simple. But just used to walk.
Walk.
Also, others in no haphazard peregrination from place to place. Okay. Okay.
So these 3 must experts are 3 of Baba's disciples who have done a great deal of must work with him. Of the 3, Baido has probably done more than all the other put together. And the information in the supplement has been gleaned chiefly from his encyclopedic memory and from a bundle of jottings, and comprises personal record of many of the musts whom Baba had met. The other 2 are Kaka and Eruch. The early must contacts of Baba, especially before the disbanding of Mad Ashram in autumn of 1940, were particularly the fruit of Kaka's labor. And he has been the link in spiritual contact between Baba and many great musts such as Chacha, Lakhan Shah, Gulab Baba, Moti Baba, Chatti Baba, Abdul Qadir Jilani, Karim Baba, Wazir Baba, and a host of lesser lights. Eruch's work in the early years was principally in the mast ashrams, but his robust constitution and particularly his unshakable imperturbability have made him an incalculable asset on the greater number of all the tours that Baba has made. He is the personification of tireless self-abnegation and has a taste of reticence about what he does, so that a few outside the immediate circle of Baba's Mandi realize how much work he has done for Baba in this and other spheres. Besides, one or more of his
I think
triumvirate.
it's a powerful paragraph to describe
Yeah.
Eruch. I think the words are very
Yeah.
complicated, but
Yeah,
very,
yeah.
very justified.
We
Very
use the
justified.
word perturb word we use,
Correct.
but to adding it imperturbability, extending it on the both sides.
And then
I'm
and adding
using that.
Beautiful.
unshakable
It's
to it.
beautiful.
And
Yeah,
adding
That's
unshakable
yeah.
before that. So
Yes.
unshakable, imperturbability. Wow.
the ability not to be perturbed.
Correct.
Yeah. That's what.
That's all it means. But then unshakable, not to be perturbed, and incalculable asset on the greater number of all tours. And then he goes on. Personification of tireless self-abnegation. Self-abnegation, I believe we can check it out. I think it is
Self-Daniel,
exactly,
I suppose.
Denial.
exactly. That's what.
No, non-self glorification.
Correct. But self-denial. Yeah, self-denial. Then you have one more word. Reticence. Okay, reticence is fine about what he does, so that few outside the immediate circle of Baba's Mandali realize how much work he has done for Baba in this and other spheres. But then, I mean, even if you see it away from this book, I think this para is truly representative of what we have understood Erich to have been. Amazing
Yes,
to
yes.
see. Yeah.
Jai
Yes, we
Baba.
can continue. Yeah. Yeah, Baba.
Besides one or more of his triumvirate, most of Baba's intimate male disciples have been on one or other of his bus tours, and although I have not inquired precisely into who follows on the heels of the three mentioned, above, I believe Gustadji probably comes next, and thereafter Adi, Pendu, Jalbhai, Jal Kerawala, Savak Kotwal, and finally almost every intimate male disciple of Baba. Thus, when every Mast tour has been planned, Baba chooses his time and then selects a group of disciples to accompany him, a group that is never less than two and often more than this. He then orders one expert, to wit, Baidul, Kaka, or Erich, to reconnoiter certain cities.
I think it's just to do a reconnaissance.
Recce.
Yeah, recce. So anyway, we'll
Search
check that.
out, search out, or
Yeah,
say
search out,
initial
yeah.
contact.
Reconnaissance. To make a reconnaissance, we'll just check the word recce. Yeah. Preliminary survey.
Preliminary
It's a
survey.
military term. It's a military term.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'll use it in an email in office.
Pick up all the words and bombard people.
Because this is very commonly written, you know. Let people get in the habit of reading dictionaries, no? Referring to dictionaries rather. Yeah.
Dictionaries, yeah.
Yeah. Jai Baba.
Jai
Jai
Baba.
Jai Baba, that comes from Air Force when the flights are going to do the survey of the army territories and the enemy's territory. Jai
Correct,
Baba.
correct. Recce, yes.
Jai Baba. So I
Ashok
read
has
again.
become Bansali.
Yes, my apologies, I was late.
No, it is not for only reference to enemies, because that it becomes a secret
No, no,
mission. Even
no,
in the open, it is. Yeah.
no.
So
Yeah. So actually,
like we
it's now become
do
a very
site surveys,
common
we
term.
do, no? Yeah.
It's become a very common term
Correct.
of late, and of course, like Sunil said, it's recce. So we shorten it to RECCE. In fact, it's very common to write even in books as RECCE,
Yeah.
but actually
Yeah,
it means reconnaissance. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's true.
Sanjay, I meant the origin is from the armed forces, but
Military.
now
Yeah.
Okay.
but now it's used widely, as Karthik has said.
Yes.
Even in when calamities come, say floods,
Right.
or and even otherwise, it's used for survey. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Okay, let's continue.
Or
Where are
we can actually stop
Stop here.
here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't
Let's
think
just
we
take a
can
pause.
finish this chapter.
No,
So,
it's long. Yeah. So,
yeah, so we will just stop here and
Mhm.
continue on the next day. That's next week.
Sure. Next week.
So maybe I'll stop recording. We can hang out for a bit if those are free. Sunil can
Sure.
recount his US trip